Hey guys, so there are funeral wreaths again in front of HYBE, this time protesting the treatment of Min Hee-jin. Supposedly, they're from the Bunnies. Remember last time we saw the funeral wreaths and they were supposedly from BTS Army, from a Twitter account that was just hours old that was able to raise all the money in record time to pay for and execute even police registration for the funeral wreaths. And now we're supposed to believe that Bunnies took their lunch money and their allowance money and bought these funeral wreaths during recess instead of saving up for their overpriced merch. So, I worked once with a girl who sent herself flowers. I think I've told you this before. It's just giving those vibes. And really, we don't really care about it seems like such an old trick now. And a trick for what? To divert attention from what? Well, we know from what, because not only were there funeral wreaths, but there was a big Kakao Talk message dump. And no, not this time, not from HYBE, but from Min Hee-jin herself. The one that says you shouldn't be releasing screenshots of Kakao Talk messages because it's private information, even though she started it in the first place back in April with her big old press conference. So I wanted to get to the release of the Kakao Talk messages from HYBE that did include information about her response to an alleged sexual harassment case in Ador, where one of her employees was so troubled that she had to resign and leave. How that played out in those messages, but glad I waited because now we have Min Hee-jin's response. So, in the interest of fairness, and of course always looking at both sides, but giving Min Hee-jin a little bit more time on her side this time because she came with some receipts of her own, so it should make it look like she's actually has a case. But of course, you know what I'm gonna say, she looks guiltier. So about a week ago, we saw Dispatch release a whole set of Kakao Talk messages that covered a wide range of topics. And so we focused last time on the whole shamanistic witchcraftiness of it all. And the other big part of it that grabbed people's attention was the sexual harassment case, which we did already see messages from. We did know that there was this situation over at Ador where there was an employee, a female employee, a young female employee who felt like she was harassed, or there was some issue that even the HYBE HR team and internal investigation team had to take care of. And we do have messages from months ago where we saw that Min Hee-jin was making fun of her, the victim, bad-mouthing, disparaging, and then going off on a general rant about how she hates working with women and how she hates feminists. So is she a misogynist? She said she was deeply troubled. So she's deeply troubled by this, and she, it's just of course it's going to be a long message on her Instagram that really doesn't say much. And she released all of these screenshots temporarily. And she wanted to make her point, saying that she did not try to hide the sexual harassment claim or investigation. That's not the question here, though. The question was, how did you respond to it? What does that say about your character? And does that line up with your whole purported image that you are selling out there, that you are a champion for women in the workplace, especially if you are feeling that you are pressed down by the patriarchy and the system. Well, this showed anything but. It showed that you are a supporter of the patriarchy and the system, and that you actually seem to be a female misogynist. And yes, there are definitely many cases, especially I've seen from the comments that you guys have posted, that when you have a horrible female boss and you're a female yourself, that there is definitely that kind of tension worldwide, just kind of tale as old as time. And what explains it some of the time, well, it could be that the woman who is being mean to everybody herself and abusive has internalized misogyny, so she's gonna be misogynistic first before the man. So does that apply here? Well, we definitely know that she's not the oppressed young office worker the way that she tried to portray herself, and she actually even doesn't like the feminist movement and women's empowerment in that aspect, and she's just directly, vulgarly disparaged women when she herself is a woman. So it seems to look like, you know, if you have this kind of behavior, that there's some sort of kind of self-hate thing going on. So we're gonna go into the Kakao Talk messages, because I think the reports glossed over so much. There was so much gloss, I'm shocked they didn't even pick a color. So, but before that, I know, you know, when Dispatch was spilling their tea, they had some extra crumpets on the side, and I was shocked. So yes, the sexual harassment information is shocking, but it's kind of, we gotta get through it heady. So how about a little bit of an amuse-bouche? I know you guys like dessert. Why don't we have a little bit of dessert first? Because I thought this was crazy. This is a quick and short cacao. They just dropped this in like it was their amuse-bouche. So we were talking about the shaman and the witchcraft last time. So, you know, if Min Hee-jin ever invites you over for tea, do not drink a sip. Do not even contemplate licking a crumb. Because guess what, y'all? She put voodoo magic and curses and spells on snacks. That's what this says. So in 2021, April, she messages her shaman, and her shaman says, you know, the rice cakes, put them in the freezer and then hand them out. And then she says, oh, if the kids, like the New Jeans girls, eat these, are they gonna, you know, succeed? And what effect does this magical rice cake have? Tteok is rice cake, so it's the, you know, the Korean desserts that's made out of rice. So the shaman says that, you know, they will get their minds straight. You know, they'll just, you know, they're kids. They're gonna be able to focus. And she's like, okay, good. But then she also said, I want to feed it to Kim Sung-soo and Park Ji-won, the HYBE leadership team, the CEOs, the presidents. And she even used the phrase 사장놈 instead of 사장님. And remember we went over 놈, like how she and her executives at Ador are so disrespectful to Bang Si-hyuk, calling him 방가놈, and now she's calling the CEO of HYBE 사장놈. You know, after that, people just can't trust, can't respect you. But also at the same time, what the heck is this? She's handing out sweet treats, but those sweet treats for the kids and for the CEO have got witchcraft on them. So that's what they say. Bless your food, pray over your food. Yeah, say grace before you eat. Not just out of commitment, but geez, there might be some voodoo magic on your food. Okay, so like, let's go back to this. It's just like criminal level gaslighting, female misogyny. She is deeply troubled and concerned over what happened, and she did her best. Okay, yeah, all right. So we're not going to minimize the sexual harassment that allegedly happened, but we're not here to litigate the case of like, did it happen, to what extent, because we're not privy to the investigative materials. It's a closed private matter within the company. So it is what it is, whether, when we go through this, you believe her or not. What we're really focusing on in this video and on this channel is Min Hee-jin's response to it and what it says about her character. The way Min Hee-jin wants you to follow it is basically focus on the sexual harassment issue and the case and how it was declared no sexual harassment. And we resolved it, case closed, and the two parties that were involved in that sexual harassment case came to some sort of reconciliation. So that is her side, and to present her side, that is her side. That's what she wants you to focus on. That's what she wants you to believe. And in general, that was true. Officially, there was an internal investigation taken by HYBE, and it concluded with HYBE finding no charges of sexual harassment. Well, obviously the victim has to bring it up, but that just means the girl didn't press charges. It doesn't mean that nothing happened. And the legal team said that Min Hee-jin listened to both sides. So what they're doing is, focusing it on her. Like, did she do her job as a CEO of Ador? And, what did she take care of it? And so officially, yes, you can kind of see from what she did. Yes, she did do the bare minimum, like what she had to do to try to publicly reconcile. But what she didn't count on is that we saw her private conversations about the matter. So on the surface, you could kind of see like when she was saying like, oh, maybe there's a misunderstanding when she's talking to the victim. Oh, maybe there's a misunderstanding. Maybe you should go talk to this guy and then, to your boss and try to figure it out. Oh, I like both. She said publicly, oh, I liked both people. Human relationships are very complex, and, we took care of a very touchy situation. Okay, so most of the time when we're in that situation and when we hear that and we, listen to people involved say it that way, you're like, okay, they sound genuine. Are they really genuine or not? Well, we'll never know. But now we do know, because we saw all the crap talking that she did with the executive that was accused of sexual harassment and taking her side. So we're gonna go through it, but she was throwing all sorts of vulgar curses against the victim, or her, and in Min Hee-jin's perspective, probably the so-called victim. So we're gonna start though with the Kakao Talk messages that Min Hee-jin submitted and to the world on her Instagram. So let's start with hers and let's give her her fair due and credit. And it's supposed to make her look better, but I think it makes her look worse. And I'm glad she shared it because it does shed light on it. So the issue at hand, like the sexual harassment issue, it seems like from what we are able to see, hinges upon a work dinner that occurred with an Ador executive who's described as A. So we'll call him Mr. A. She is a young new employee, lettered B in these Kakao Talks. So we'll call her Worker B. And then C is the client, the advertiser. So there's an advertiser that wanted to go on a dinner with Ador management team. And then so the question was, first of all, why was she invited? Because she's way too, from her perspective, she said she's way too junior to even be at this dinner. And why was she there? So we're seeing this chat situation between Worker B and Mr. A, Executive A. And I think what Min Hee-jin was intending was for it to look like there was no shady, funny business going on with Executive A in his request for Worker B to join this dinner. However, I see all sorts of red flags, even in just this 1 or 2 pages of Kakao Talk messages. Namely, because Worker B, yes, okay, so like I think what Min Hee-jin is saying, like, oh, look, she says, oh, that time works for me, that's great. Like, seems like she's excited. However, the Worker B said, like, I am not at this level where it seems like it would be appropriate for me to join this client dinner, and it looks like it might be a little bit uncomfortable, so it might be great if you go with the client C and just Mr. Executive A, just go the 2 of you to this dinner. But then this Executive A kept insisting, and then even said, like, oh, can you talk for 5 minutes? So that means that to me shows, like, okay, they're gonna take it, he wants to take it offline and then twist her arm, like even in a chat or a phone call, or maybe even drop by her desk. And then she agreed and she said, okay, fine, I'll step, like, February 20th works good. And then it is the Executive A who says, okay, I'll go and check with the client and see. So this is a little bit odd, because usually, like, if you are somewhat at the level, you would kind of be happy to be invited and almost maybe convinced. But if there is a real gap in the hierarchy, if you're just a junior person, and she apparently had just joined the company and she was under a 6-month training period, which is a code word for essentially probationary period, because in Korea, once you hire somebody, it's almost impossible to fire them. So they do have somewhat of a engagement period of 6 months where, if they're like, oh, if it doesn't work out, okay, no harm, no foul. So she was just very junior. So it's just like, why is she at this dinner? First of all, it doesn't seem right. Okay, so now we're looking at a group chat, and you know how Min Hee-jin is accusing HYBE of manipulating the messages? I kind of get a sense that she pulled a fast one here. So it's supposed to be a group chat between Executive A, Worker B, and Client C, but I'm going to call him Creepy C. And so he's saying, like, okay, I have some ideas for the restaurant. And how about in Cheongdam-dong, which is like the Beverly Hills of Seoul? And it looks like he's like flexing, and it's kind of weird because it looks like he's flexing. So I honestly think that this chat, the person that is labeled as A in this chat, is actually the Worker B, not an older executive guy, because if you look at the way that the responses are, that's kind of more of a younger girl trying to suck up, not an older executive guy trying to suck up. This is a little bit odd. I mean, I know that I chat a little bit cutesy, but this is a little bit too much even for me, especially in like this kind of professional setting. So I want you to know that I think A is actually the girl responding, and then Min Hee-jin is just trying to make it look like it's actually the executive. But it's presented as the executive. So the creepy C is like, oh, how about near Beverly Hills? And it's kind of near my office so that you can take a look. Now, why would the executive not have already been to the office? Maybe he didn't. Maybe it's a newer client. Who knows? But the response is, oh yeah, that's so great. I would love to go to the office. And he says like, oh, yeah, I'll show it to you a little bit. Like, 그럼 살짝 보여드릴게요. That's so creepy, kind of groomer, like that basically like I'll show you, like 살짝 보여드릴게요. So it's just like, oh, maybe I'll show you like a peek of your office. Like, what are you trying to show? And then they were like, okay, so how about this option, this Chinese restaurant in Cheongdam-dong? I was just like, oh my god, like this is like a chain restaurant. It's not even like that good. It's almost like if you were in Beverly Hills in California and somebody says, oh, how about some bibimbap in Beverly Hills? And you're just like, okay, well, all right, so you're flexing over like dim sum and dumplings over in Cheongdam-dong, okay, but all right, so then they do that, and then it's like all very like cutesy and stuff like this, like almost like the creepy C is flirting. Is he flirting with Executive A, or is he flirting with, worker B? Then the weird thing is that they changed the location. Of course, like, all of them are basically being very ingratiating and like sucking up to each other. So it's just a very much of a, polite situation. This is how it goes, when you do these chats. But then, okay, so the weird thing that happens, they were supposed to go to this Chinese restaurant, which is like, okay, it's sort of like a Din Tai Fung kind of a place. But then they change it to this private room at a izakaya, which is like a Japanese restaurant, but really it's like half restaurant and half drinking. It's more about the drinking with food once you go to an izakaya. And the link here that they showed us, they showed the description that it's described as in Naver, which is essentially the Google of Korea. It says like it's a date place, like dating, romantic place with private rooms. So, you kind of have like your own designated space. Red flag, red alert. And it doesn't show actually who is responding here. Conveniently, it was missing. Like, was it worker B or was it executive A? Yes, this place is also good. Oh wow. Sorry that you were so busy and for making all these changes. And the creepy C said, oh, don't worry, the reservation is in. And the person responded, thank you. In this private room, what happened that night? There was a lot of drinking. What happened that night? So apparently that's the place where this worker B, the young girl at Ador, felt extremely uncomfortable enough to really escalate this situation. And when it looked like there was not going to be a very good resolution, she submitted her resignation letter on Kakao Talk to Min Hee-jin while Min Hee-jin was overseas in Japan. And she wrote this basically saying like, thank you for the opportunity, but I have to leave the company. And Min Hee-jin was like, okay, well, that's a shock. I'm in Japan. I'll reply when I get back to Korea. Send me more information about this. And then the weird thing was, she was saying like, okay, then tell me what people are saying out, outside? Like, what are you hearing about, like, your own like, tell me what the gossip is about you. And then the worker bee was like, okay, I'll send this over to you. Now, we're still on Min Hee-jin's side. Min Hee-jin's way of presenting this situation. Then she seemed to have submitted a report about what was going on to HYBE, and trying to gather more information. So she's requesting more information from the victim, and she's giving it an update, but presenting it as mediating. So maybe she's mediating, she's getting the information. She's trying to pull together, like, what happened. Okay, so that on the front facing, well, she was trying to put together what happened. She was trying to get information from both sides, and then she was trying to get a resolution to this conflict from both sides. So then what I did not like, it made me sick to my stomach to read this, but you ever have like this kind of conflict, and maybe it's like you will never get along with this person, and they did you so wrong, such betrayal, but you're supposed to make nice and say, oh, hi, how are you? It's been a while. Okay, we have to meet and talk, and yeah, let's meet and talk to try to iron things out. So did it work? No, because she still resigned afterwards. But there was this message that Min Hee-jin showed that, like, oh, the two met and they were trying to talk it out, and they said, like, oh, it was like all a misunderstanding. But worker B can then talk to Min Hee-jin on Kakao Talk and said, like, look, we worked it out, like, This is why it's difficult in these situations, and actually favors the company, favors HR, favors Min Hee-jin, because the victim is usually always going to have to be having language that says, like, oh yes, it was a misunderstanding, we had to talk it out, it seems like we are able to, and they'll use some sort of vague word of not completely reconcile, but basically put a light dust on it, instead of bearing the whole thing. And she even said here, like, they said that, well, he offered, like, why don't you come back to work? And she was just like, thanks, but no thanks. So if there was really not an issue, don't you think that she would be, jumping at the opportunity to come back to go work for Ador? And publicly, Min Hee-jin was saying that, no, this was a very unfortunate situation, and it looked like it was more about bullying from Executive A that led Worker B to leave. So even if it were bullying, she obviously, was going to leave her executive there, whom she depends upon, because as we see, he's much more important to the story, especially to the schemation of it all. He is vital and integral to her takeover plot. But that's what we're transitioning to. So what you got to see was, yes, on the public face, did she try to get both sides of the story? Yes. Did she try to get them to reconcile? Yes. So she did do, like, her due diligence of a job as the CEO of Ador. Okay, but when they say HR is not your friend, nor is Min Hee-jin, let's get into what she did not want you to see, but actually was presented last week. And then this is what she's trying to cover up or distract us with, like 30,000 words and then also like 300,000 screenshots. So 10 days before the Executive A and Worker B met to talk things out, well, there was this message between Min Hee-jin and Worker A, or Executive A. He's like, well, there's talk about like getting legal advice, and I'm thinking about getting legal advice about this situation. She's like, yeah, go get it. And then Executive A was like, oh, I'm sorry for making you worry about this. And she's like, no. She says some bad stuff. She's like, that bee. So she uses like, that bee a lot to talk about worker bee. Not like an innocent bumblebee, but the dog bee. And she's like, oh, well, she better learn that, life ain't fair. And we gave her all this opportunity, and this ruins my mood. And so basically she was just saying like, tell the bee to suck it up. And then the executive said, okay, in the future, I won't invite girls to dinners because of the liability. And then she says, now this is the thing, like if she were just being a very neutral party, she wouldn't talk like this. But she's like, yeah, we don't know which of these bees are the crazy bees. And then he's like, yes. And then she goes off on this rant, right? No, it's these effing feminists. I want to kill them. They work like crap, but they put all their effort into crap like this, making others people's lives crap. She doesn't consider what she did was wrong. It'd be different if she were good at her job. And then she tells the executive, stay strong. There's a lot of crap happening. You stepped in crap. This is crazy. And then he said, yeah, I did nothing wrong, nothing that would bring shame to my family or kids. And then she says, yeah, you're being falsely accused. So obviously she is totally on the side of her executive. And this is what brought up all these kind of issues about whether she actually cares about women in the workplace. Then there's a message about how she's telling him to fix his report, because I guess the executive had to give the report. She's like, you know what, you got to make it better, send it back to me, bold things, underline things, and just like how she does things. And then he's like, yep, done. And then instead of like, okay, thank you, I'll get the report, I'll read it, she's like, yeah, that effing bee should die, let's go. Like she's on a battle crusade against her own employee. And then not only that, then she says, is she effing psycho or deranged? And then she's like, oh, so she's gonna sue? Okay, fine, then we'll countersue. She has no evidence, so she's effed. And if this comes out, she'll look like the psycho and it'll ruin her life. Oh, she has that much courage? Seems like karma's coming back, because that's how you look, girl, in your blue cap. So obviously she was really on the side of the executive. And again, we're not litigating about this situation right now about the actual what went down in that room, in that izakaya that was good for dates in the middle of the Beverly Hills of Korea, next to the office of the creepy advertiser who says that I'll give you a little peek. Ew. So this is more about a character evaluation, sort of like if you're asked like in a job situation, like tell me how you handled a tough situation. So it's not about essentially the situation itself, it's more about the handling of it. Why? Because how you handle it reveals your character, and that's really what they're looking for. And so we're looking at how she handled this very tough situation. So the day before, Executive A, Worker B met to hash it out. There's this conversation over Kakao Talk between Min Hee-jin and Executive A, where she now is like getting mad at Executive A. And she said, you know what, I effing trusted you even before you denied it, and now you say you can't remember what happened? So it could have happened? She has all the details and the receipts, so you have to tell me something specific. And in the public, she said that, Min Hee-jin said that, oh, after I heard Worker B's story, I became enraged and talked to Executive A for 2 hours and severely scolded them, and was so upset because this can't be in the record. So see, obviously she's more interested in this situation can't ruin my company, because that's going to affect probably valuations and then her overall plan. And Obviously, it showed that she had blind faith and trust in her employee first, and then she was forced to confront the situation about worker B because worker B also submitted a report that was very detailed. And once that goes up into a HYBE internal investigation, Min Hee-jin better have some good stories to back up her executive. And so then she went to her executive to find the details, and he's saying he can't remember what happened. And then she goes ballistic. Then we have additional bad-mouthing women from chats dated March 3rd, 2024, January 8th, 2024, January 18th, 2024, December 30th, 2023, May 22nd, 2021. We don't have time for all that, but basically we do know that there was a lot of misogynistic stuff going on that was against the actual bunnies themselves, against the New Jeans members themselves, women in the workplace, women all around. So it almost feels like, yes, she does seem to be quite an internalized misogynist. Of course, maybe only her shaman and psychiatrist probably are qualified to make that assessment. So now time for our second dessert. Oh my goodness, this must be karma. And it does fit. Usually if there's some sort of kind of like bold sexual harassment that somebody does, you can kind of see their hubris leading up to this situation. And that incident, that event was February 20th, 2024, earlier this year. That dinner in the izakaya in the Beverly Hills of Seoul. And 2 weeks before, on February 4th, there was now a conversation on Kakao Talk that was just a mean-spirited and dangerous and treacherous and full of betrayal between Executive A and Min Hee-jin. So here you could see Executive A was just like, I want to see Pang Shi-hyuk turn to crap so bad. We need to make a move before BTS comes back. Just 1 year is left. And Min Hee-jin says, well, if it's in his cards to become crap, then he'll be crap. So she's probably already knowing like, oh, my shaman's on it. Then he says, it may be tough in 1 year to complete the illusion that all of our multi-label, IT platform, US distribution is going well and then failing. But if we use our heads, it won't take much work to F them over and gain our freedom. So remember, they were trying to sabotage their own company and put HYBE in a place where they're going to be vulnerable so that they could take advantage of the situation in terms of money and power and control and leaving. And so it looked like they were planning to say like, okay, we're going to get, all this, just like HYBE's going to believe everything's going well, and then we're going to sabotage it all, and then like it's going to all crack and fall like a house of cards around them. Min Hee-jin says like, oh, that would be great. And he said, that's the plan for Ador. And he said like, we just need to start with the weakest link. So here he is going off on his stuff. And apparently, of course, Min Hee-jin is claiming that this is how they joke because they're so stressed, but this is how they like detailed, intricate plans. So he says like, we just need to start with the weakest link. Then we put our scheme in. First, we need to corrode the unity of the multi-label system to weaken its strength. So this totally makes sense how they're going after B-Lift Lab, iLit. They're going after Source Music and Le Seraphim, trying to break up the power of the multi-label system. He said like, and then he said like, that's one tactic of this plot. Then we use our enemies to fight our real enemies. And with X, they didn't name, we identify those who have a grudge against HYBE. So they're trying to create a coalition of HYBE's enemies. Then they say like, we plant seeds of doubt among HYBE's investors and supporters, especially the investors that have 0.1% to 1 to 2% shares, tons of them, Singapore, Hong Kong, Korea, investors and investment funds. So this is now amazing information when we are seeing like how they were going to put together their plot, when they were saying like, oh well, we didn't really meet with investors, and people were thinking like, oh, you guys, no, it seems like you guys well definitely met with some big investors, and that was the strategy. But here, this is a sneakier strategy, because where they're going is to people who have small chunks but significant chunks. So if you have even 10 people that you meet up with who have 1% of HYBE each, that suddenly becomes 10%. And you add that up to Min Hee-jin's 20%, that's suddenly 30%. Remember, it's about like 40% is the magic number. Then you keep meeting with all these other people, and you're not meeting per se, you're just planting seeds of doubt against HYBE, so that when the time comes and you can kind of manipulate a situation, all these people are ready to kind of be like, hey, well, you know, she seems like she knows what she's doing, and she seems like she's right, and oh my god, HYBE seems like they're in the wrong. That's what they were trying to plant. So devious and ingenious, and completely destroys Min Hee-jin's argument about saying like, well, I only had 18 to 20%, what could I do? That I can never do a takeover, when basically right here is all planned out. And then Min Hee-jin though says, but in the end, we're going to have to use the media. So there you go. She, from that time as well, and from the time that we've come to meet her through the media, she loves this tactic of manipulating the media and public opinion. And then the executive says, well, if the media play spreads, the media will lose all loyalty to HYBE, total destruction. It's gonna be like a hemorrhage that explodes. And then Min Hee-jin didn't say ha 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 like if they were really just joking. Oh, well, where's the laughter? No, she says, once HYBE is lassoed in, we have to figure a way to cut and run. A real strategy. So honey, they were not playing Chutes and Ladders, Candyland, Monopoly to let go of their steam. They were hatching a plot all the time. And it got more and more advanced and developed. And we have the receipts. So yes, this was about Min Hee-jin's side to be presented as well, about how she handled the sexual harassment situation. And again, the HYBE internally said that, well, there's no sexual harassment charges or a case here. So yes, if you want to kind of also criticize HYBE about like how maybe they kind of didn't want to make this into a bigger situation, that's not good either. The poor girl who's suffering, she left, she's still in distress. She was almost like, you know, willing to consider suing them. That's a big thing. That's more than just a, you know, misunderstanding. I mean, maybe she's, according to Min Hee-jin's words, just loopy, and this person is, you know, not a good person, but she hired her. So we don't know, and but that's not the point. The point is, how did she respond and handle this whole situation? And then on the surface, yes, on the surface she did her job, but how did she handle it behind the scenes, and what did she really feel? Well, that part she didn't expect to be uncovered, and from that, wow, it does not look good. Does not look good. Doesn't look good from the beginning. No, the girl didn't want to go to this dinner. She had her red flags going on. She did her due diligence in terms of pushing back as much as she could, feeling in her gut that this was not appropriate. She had to protect herself, but to protect her job, she had to put herself in a very vulnerable position and then not be backed up by anybody in the company, continuously gaslit, and then just thrown away. Horrible. And so this is the mother of a K-pop group. This is the champion for oppressed women in the workplace, when it looks hardly anything but. and it looks like she may fit more into the category of an internalized misogynist who is a female who attacks other females. What do you guys think? Put your comments below. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.